Chapter 5, Lesson 5, Slope. You can see that we got slope here as our title in the lesson. We got slope in level 4 going above and showing knowledge of it. And slope is also a type of rate or rate of change. We're going to really focus in on it on a graph today. So let's talk about slope. Slope's definition is the rate of change, there it is, a rate of change, between any 2 points. So I'd like you to put a bubble cloud around those 2 points. You can pick any 2 points on that line, and you'll have the same rate of change. You will have the same slope. Now, for us today, slope, well, this letter M is going to come into play next year, so that's something you want to be very familiar with next year. But for this year, we're talking about the change in Y over the change in X, or I'd actually like you to write down one more thing. For you and I, since there's a graph, we're going to use rise over run. The rise, how much you change in your Y, how much you go up or down, over the run, how much you go left or right. In this case, it'll be to the right. So we're going to write that down every time on every problem. When it says find slope, we're going to write this guy out, rise over run, and then we're going to do some counting. Let's show you. Find the slope of the line. So now notice it's from any 2 points. So they gave us 2 points here. These nice black dots are 2 points, but anywhere else that it crosses nicely, like over here, and right there looks like another good point too. Those would work as well. So you can choose any point where that line crosses the coordinate grid very nicely. Not here, where it's kind of in the middle and you have to approximate it. So don't do that. So since it says to find slope, that means just like on every problem, we're going to write down rise over run. Now, go to your furthest left point. That's this guy right here. And then how much do you rise to get to the same level? So you're counting from here, we go up 1, 2, Notice how we're now on the same level as this point here. We rose 2, and now how much do we have to run to get from this point right here all the way over to this point? So count how much you move. Don't count your starting spot. So we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to count. So our slope is 2 over 6. Our rise over run, our rate of change is 2 over 6, which can that be simplified? Yes, it can. Your answer is 1/3. Today, we're finding the slope of a line that is graphed. So we're working on recognizing that and working on it from a graph. So let's do another slope. It says find slope. The direction's on the previous slide, so here we go again. Since it said find slope, put down rise over run every time. Nope, not just once on the top of the page, not just on the first problem. You must write it down on every problem that it says to find slope. Why? Well, I told you so. That's reason number 1. But reason number 2, it's worth a point on a normal quiz. Reason number 3, I need you to memorize this. It's like a formula. It's going to help you. Number 4, it's going to help you get the right answer. Number 5, you'll remember how to get slope. Oh, good reasons. So, yeah, every time, rise over run. But then from there, go to this far left point over here. And how much do you rise? How much do you climb? How much do you go up that elevator to get to this level here where this other dot is? The other point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like to count. And then how much do you go over? Don't count where you start. So this is where we start. So don't say 1. How much do you move? 1, 2, 3. Only count the spaces that you move. 6 over 3 can be simplified. Mental math calculator approved. 2 is your slope. They may actually say 2 over 1 because they like it as a rate or a ratio comparison of 2 numbers, but we'll just leave it at 2, and you can box that on up. So every time it says to find slope, we're going to write down this every time. Rise over run, and then you go and start counting. When you have to graph, then graph the data. So notice up here across the top, we got 2 different things. We got lawns mowed and earnings. Your earning, the amount of money you make, is dependent on how many lawns you mow. So down along the bottom, we'll put down our independent variable. That would be the lawns mode. Since I can count by ones all the way up to 12 on this graph, I don't technically need to number this, but for video purposes, I will. So 1, 2, here's 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, that was so much fun. You could keep on going if you'd like to, and then put on 15, and then 18. But since I just got to get to 12, I'll just stop right there. Now, the trouble is, we got to get up to 180 somehow along our y-axis, up here where our dependent variable goes. Oh, speaking of that, we should do this very nicely. Down here, put down lawns or lawns mode. Oh, labeling our graph. This is just wonderful. Oh, and then from there, you could do that little break thing. You might have seen that before, but I'm going to tell you later on in chapter 10 about why not to do that. So let's just go and think here. We can't go by ones to get to 180. What could we go by? So in class, we'd throw out some numbers, 5, 10, 20, whatever you'd like to go by. 15s work very nicely because all these numbers are divisible by 15. So I'm going to count by 15, where every line is going to be worth 15, but I'll number every other one. So here we go. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 105, 120, 135, 150. Next line's 165, then 180. And again, we could keep on going, but we don't need to. We've gotten to all the points that we need to. So now it says graph the data. Graph the data. So at 345, go over 3, 1, 2, 3, and up to 45 and put a dot there. 1, 2, 3. Boom. You don't have to have a colored dot like mine. You just put a dot right there. The next one is 6 and 90. Again, these points are coming from up here, 6 and 90. So go over 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 90, put a dot. Then go over to 9 and 135. So again, got to go over 9. So from 6, we'll go over 3 more. And then up to 135. Well, that one's kind of in between the numbers there. I had to remember that. And then go over to 12. 1, 2, 3, up to 180. Not a perfect dot, but it'll work. So now, step number 1, we have graphed the data. Graph the data. Now it says to find, and interpret the slope of the line. Well, to find the slope, here we go. We're going to do rise over run. So you can pick any 2 points. In class, I talk about which ones do you want. You can pick the first one, the last one. You can pick the second and the third one. You can pick the first, and so on and so forth. But let's just keep things simple. Let's do smaller numbers. So I'm going to pick these first 2, and I'm going to find the rise over run. Now here's the trouble. 1, 2, 3. Absolutely right. We went up 3 lines. However, go over here, and though it's 3 lines that we go up, each line is not worth 1. Each line is worth 15. So we need to think about this one a little bit differently. And that happens every once in a while on our graphs. We got to watch those scales. So as we're going up, we went up 3, but that means we went up 15, 30, 45. So 3 lines, but each line was 15. So you could take 3 times 15 if you wanted mental math for a calculator. Then how much do we run from this point to this point? We go over 1, 2, 3, but again, go down here and take a look. Same thing. We're going over 1, 2, 3, and that is counting by 1. So then we can take and put down 3. When you divide that on out, you get 15, which is a wonderful slope. Now interpret that. What does that mean? Well, here in this context of this problem, what was our rise label? What was our label going up and down? Well, this is $15 per, what's the label down here in the bottom? Right here, lawns. So $15 per lawn mowed. Today when it says find slope, Every time you're going to write down rise over run, every time, because that's our goal today as we're looking at finding it through a graph. You could do it through a table, but we're going to do that later. So today, that's what we're going to do. Find slopes of lines and interpret a few slopes of lines as rates.